The type of content that I mostly produce, let's say, could be protected in a way, it's like video content that I usually post on social media, and also things like maybe work that I do with clients. So when I produce this content for example, startups or others that use this content on social media. And in that case, no, I do not register when I produce all this content. I do not register it for copyrights. And I'm trying to add some notes regarding the licensing of the content in the contract with the client, with the startup. So like, for example, usage, maybe having a timed usage for the content that I produce, not like lifetime, or maybe for a specific channel like social media. But then, for example, if they want to use some of my content for a TV ads or something like that, then it's excluded. So those are the things that I am doing when it comes to copyrights and not necessarily registering it. Again, we are talking mostly about video content that I produce. That's the kind of stuff I make. That's part of the conditions that are in the contract. So I haven't received any pushback in a sense. So maybe the licensing terms are kind of like loose on purpose, just to kind of like protect myself long term. But I haven't got any let's say pushback from the clients, and it's all basically part of the contract. That is usually tends to be really simple, just to put down the key agreements, deliverables, compensation, and those licensing conditions. It happened several times, and mostly, again, due to the content that I produce, that happened via downloading the videos via certain downloaders online. So you can use tools or web app to download LinkedIn videos from anybody and then repost them as yours. And that's one, and in several cases without even mentioning my name. So it's just like stealing the content, putting on their own social channel. After the first time, I just reach out basically with a message, hey, it would be great if you could, let's say, at least tag me. And then it happens other times that the same people didn't even tag me afterward. So then that's the moment that I kind of like send back more angry messages. But the fact is that platform owners, in this case LinkedIn or X, they don't do anything to kind of like protect people from this. That's basically the type of plagiarism I've been a victim of. There are different elements to this question. One, because being that I feature a lot of Gen AI tools and apps, yes, I use a lot, but just to create the actual content that talks about that tool, right? So if I'm using a 3D Gen AI tool, yes, I use the tool to make a video to show how it performs and maybe compare it to other tools, for example, maybe show an update. Now, I also use, when it comes to using Gen AI for something that is not for the sake of talking about Gen AI, for example, I use it for generating or editing part of the images that, for example, I use as my thumbnail for videos on YouTube, or maybe to repurpose some of the interviews that I do into like a form of article in a Q&A format, right? So those are the two ways that I use Gen AI mostly, to either repurpose content or maybe edit and change and add and create, let's say, visuals that go on the YouTube channel. I do really appreciate, for example, when on LinkedIn now and a few other platforms, there is this little kind of like watermark that's being added when directly an image that has been generated with AI is visible, right? So one layer is certainly making visible when an image was generated by AI. That would kind of like make it more apparent, and there is like awareness around it from the platform owners, right? So let's say if the content is, it could be Steam, right? Even like when it's in the case of a video game, it could be indeed social media because that's the space I operate. But otherwise, so that would be one element. So making visible when something was generated by AI, and that imply automatically that everything that was in there doesn't necessarily come from the author, but an AI model, Gen AI model that kind of like added its own training data to it. The other is probably, yeah, how do we support this IP issue? Yeah, the understanding and having transparency on how these models have been trained, right? Because again, we know that right now, if you ask these platforms like Nano Banana or whatever it is, right, they give images of Ghibli characters or Mickey Mouse or those. It means that those were automatically pulled into the system. And that's for images, but then of course it also goes into other form of data, like the data from YouTube, like and Wikipedia, and so on. So yeah, understanding where these formats come from, or where this data come from, the data that have been used to train these models, that would help. And then having like as I was saying, like a mark or a way to recognize when that content is generated by AI. Those probably would add transparency, an element of transparency that right now it's lacking. So the question probably, and I mean just personal for me, how important is for me to protect my IP, right? Or like the content that I produce. So I think that's also different answer for everybody. So right now, if I have to be honest, a lot of what I produce is not something that is, let's say, a game or something that, let's say, is long-lasting assets. It's not a movie. It's this kind of like content that is produced on social media that consequently I am either less attached to, and I also it's not that valuable, so to say. Of course, a lot of hours goes into it, but it's not like. So for me right now, if I would need to think about it, I wouldn't probably go through the effort of protecting it because of the type of content, about the frequency, and about the way that currently it's set up, at least for the kind of stuff that I produce. I can imagine this being a different story if you are a musician, or if you are a digital artist, a 3D artist, or a book writer, right? So whatever form of content you produce. The thing that I would be really upset about is that if someone would somehow steal my face to say things that don't come from my mouth. And that's another problem. Luckily, it hasn't happened, but probably what's more valuable to me is, let's say, the brand, the myself, like my own personal presence, because I don't want people to take advantage of that and maybe take a picture of me and say, oh yeah, I met Gabriele here, or oh, this is a video or a shorts of me saying something about a company or something else that maybe it's not real. That would be pretty pissed. And yeah, and I don't know if right now there is any way of preventing that, because I believe anybody could feed some of my video to an AI tool and just tell them to make me say whatever I want. So I don't know what systems are in place when it comes to those type of AI for deepfakes and stuff like that. But that is probably the only thing that I would do, up to the level of emailing or getting in contact with the people that are building the tool to make sure that those things get put down or the user is banned, and then they take extra measure to prevent that from happening again.